The War of the Five Kings began with a lie. A lie about a murderer who was just a pawn. Jon Arryn's death wasn't the work of one killer. It was the accidental masterpiece of four. Officially, the killer is Lysa Arryn. She confesses it herself before her death. I did it. For love, she poisoned her husband with the tears of Lys, a rare and subtle poison. Her motive seems clear: to escape her marriage to an old man and return to the Eyrie with her son. But that's the surface. Lysa is impulsive, paranoid, and emotionally frail. She is a weapon, not a mastermind. The critical question is, who loaded the weapon and who pointed it? The official story comes from Lysa Arryn herself. At the Eyrie, in a moment of manic triumph, she confesses to Sansa Stark. I did it. I killed my husband. For love, she used the tears of Lys, a rare, untraceable poison from Essos. Her stated motive is clear: to be free of her marriage to an old man she never loved, and to return home to the Eyrie with her sickly son, Robert. But this is where the truth ends, and the manipulation begins. Lysa Tully was never a strategist. She was a vessel overflowing with grief, madness, and a desperate, delusional love. Her love wasn't for Jon Arryn. It wasn't even truly for her son. It was for Petyr Baelish, the man who took her virginity, the man she was forced to give up, the man who wrote her letters for years. Littlefinger cultivated her loneliness and paranoia like a poisonous flower. He convinced her the Lannisters were a threat. He fed her fantasy that they were together in this. By killing Jon Arryn on Littlefinger's command, she believed she was securing a future for them. She was the perfect weapon, emotionally compromised, placed in the perfect position, and utterly convinced the murder was her own idea. So, the murder is solved. Lysa poisoned the wine, but a pawn cannot move itself. Behind her stands the player who directed her every move. The man for whom Jon Arryn's death was just the opening gambit in a much larger game. A pawn has been sacrificed. Jon Arryn is dead. But in the Game of Thrones, the pawn never knows the player's true objective. For Petyr Baelish, the murder wasn't an end. It was the first domino. Littlefinger's genius lies in making others accomplish his goals while believing the goals are their own. With Lysa, he exploited a decades-old infatuation. He gave her a target for her fears, the Lannisters, and a solution: remove Jon Arryn, the hand investigating the royal lineage, and return to the safety of the Vale. But his goals were far grander. Goal 1. Eliminate Jon Arryn, an honest man who stood in the way of chaos. Goal 2. Use Lysa to send a letter to Catelyn Stark, explicitly blaming the Lannisters. This letter is the spark. It brings Ned Stark to King's Landing and sets the Starks and Lannisters on a collision course. Littlefinger does not thrive in peace. He thrives in chaos. A war between the great houses creates debt, desperation, and opportunity. It weakens the strong and allows a man with no name, no army, and only his wits to climb. By orchestrating Jon Arryn's death, he doesn't just kill a hand. He creates the single event that will topple the realm. He positions himself as the indispensable man to both the Starks and the Lannisters in the aftermath. He is the arsonist who then sells water. So the plot is set. The murder is committed, the blame is shifted. But what if the intended target of that blame, the Lannisters, and specifically Queen Cersei, were meant to take the fall? Yet, in a cruel twist, they weren't just innocent patsies. They were willing beneficiaries. The puppet master has pulled the strings, framing the Lannisters for a murder they didn't commit. But what if the frame fits a guilty picture? Cersei Lannister may not have ordered the hit, but Jon Arryn's death was the answer to her most desperate prayer. Jon Arryn and Stannis Baratheon had discovered the truth. Cersei's children were not Robert's heirs. They were Jaime Lannister. This was high treason. The punishment for her, for Jaime Lannister, for Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen death. Jon Arryn was the active threat in King's Landing. He was asking questions, reading books, connecting the dots. He was days, perhaps hours, from going to Robert's. For Cersei, Jon Arryn wasn't just an enemy. He was an exterminator standing at her door. So, did she plot with Littlefinger? No. Their games ran on parallel tracks. But Cersei is not passive. She had a plan: weaken Robert and position Joffrey. Yet, a direct move against the hand was risky. Then, he dies. A sudden, tragic illness. For Cersei, it is a miracle. She does not question it. She accepts the gift and immediately moves to shape the aftermath. She supports the appointment of her husband's best friend, the Honorable Ned Stark, as the new hand. A man she knows is easier to manipulate than a seasoned politician like Arryn. Cersei's role is one of silent complicity. She saw the threat, desired its end, and gratefully accepted the result without a second thought. But her silence was enabled by another. A man whose sacred duty was to heal, yet whose political duty was to let a patient die. 3 plots have converged. The murder is done, the war is set, the queen is saved. But for a conspiracy to be seamless, it needs a final touch, an authoritative stamp that declares the death natural. It needs a man in a chain who chooses to look away. Grand Maester Pycelle was the royal physician. He tended to Jon Arryn in his final days. As an old man and a learned healer, he, of all people, should have recognized the symptoms of a sophisticated poison like the tears of Lysa. Yet, he diagnosed a mere sickness. He claims he was fooled. But Pycelle's true loyalty is not to the realm or to truth. It is to House Lannister, and specifically to the memory of Tywin Lannister. He believes the stability of the Seven Kingdoms rests on Lannister power. The revelation of Cersei's secret would cause a catastrophic war, which it did, but in Pycelle's mind, a controlled Lannister ascendancy was preferable. Pycelle's crime is not commission, but omission. He did not investigate. He did not voice suspicions to the king or to Varys. He simply pronounced the hand dead of natural causes and closed the book. He is the conspiracy's cleanup crew. By doing nothing, he erases the trail. When Ned Stark comes investigating, it is Pycelle who gently assures him of Jon Arryn's ill health, weaving the official story into history. He provides the respectable cover that allows the other plotters to operate in the shadows. And so, the web is complete. Lysa Tully, the heartbroken pawn, who poured the poison. Petyr Baelish, the puppet master, who guided her hand and aimed the blame. Cersei Lannister, the opportunistic queen, who desired the death and blessed the result. Grand Maester Pycelle, the complicit healer, who sanctified the lie. They did not conspire together. They conspired in parallel, each acting for their own reasons, their individual plots accidentally aligning into a perfect, untraceable crime. This is the true lesson of Jon Arryn's murder. In the Game of Thrones, you don't need a single conspiracy. You just need enough people who want the same thing, for different reasons, to look the other way.